Hi and welcome to a new video. This one's called the top 15 human qualities. I'm going to do a top 10 list, but there was too many of them to discuss and to actually fit into just a regular top 10. So I did the top 15 instead, with 15 being the least best and one, of course, being the best. So without further ado, let's get to it. Here we are. Number 15, reliability. You could also put loyalty and punctuality into that, because reliability, steadfastness is a very admirable human quality, and it seems to be so lacking in people today. You know, people are generally quite flaky. They don't show up in time, they're late, and there's no explanation, there's no text, there's no phone call. And people just and work people too, they don't seem to, sometimes they just don't show up at all, you know? So that's a character defect if somebody's unreliable. I'm going to do a top 10 or top 15 worst human qualities as well. So I don't want to go into the negatives too much here. Let's keep this on a positive vibe. So that's 15. Number 14 is intelligence. Intelligence includes the ability to reason, be reasonable, solve problems, be practical, and also the ability to use one's intelligence. I mean, one can have a very high intellect, as is the case of an academic or professional, a scientist, philosopher, and not necessarily know a great deal about the world around them or how to use that intelligence in a practical way. So intelligence can also work against some in the case of somebody having a great intellect and being very impractical, not able to connect to people and the world around them very well. So that's intelligence. So intelligence is more than the ability to rationalize. It's about actually being able to access the intelligence of the world around you, to access the intelligence of the universe itself, because the universe is brimming with intelligence, brimming with energy and information. Energy and information contain the intelligence of the universe. And so we can be guided by that intelligence. And that is the very definition of real intelligence. It's the crux or the heart of the matter. That's what real intelligence is. And it's all around us. So it's only a question of being able to access that intelligence. It's not merely a matter of mind, but of energy. The more energy that you have, the more you're able to access the universal mind, or the intelligence of the universe itself. Number 13, open-mindedness. We all tend to, myself included, cling to our own ideas, opinions, viewpoints, perspectives, and it's sometimes difficult to adopt another person's perspective, to see an argument or a subject from the other person's perspective. The ability to not only see the other person's perspective, but to hold that perspective and try and step into their shoes and give up the attachment of being right. And I know I've got difficulty with this myself, but because I like to argue and I like to debate, but to really see another person's perspective and to step into their shoes, that's a valuable asset, because there are so many perspectives that we must aim to understand at least if not include, and to understand multiple perspectives and integrate those perspectives. Integrate those perspectives is a sign of high intelligence, and one needs open-mindedness for that. So that's open-mindedness. And, open-mindedness is, of course, a trait that's been developed by the cutting edge of society, the green meme and the woke people who are trying to include as many perspectives as possible. And they sometimes get tyrannical in their implementation of this principle of open-mindedness, and trying to force open-mindedness on people who are perhaps a bit more bigoted or less open-minded than they are. And this, of course, doesn't work, because the person that's less open-minded tends to get on the defensive and cherish their opinion all the more. So open-mindedness is something that we must cultivate by ourselves. And the way to do this is to try at least and understand where that person is coming from. Number 12, positivity. Happy, joyful, free-spirited, enthusiastic, looks on the bright side, has a can-do attitude, and with those positive qualities generates a sense of personal power, because one can't have personal power if one's always negative, if one's brooding or constantly critical or judgmental or bitter or resentful. Negativity has become so commonplace in the world, in society, that it's become a default mechanism for people. Rather, we must cultivate positivity, joyfulness, gratefulness, gratitude, happiness, peacefulness, serenity, all the positive qualities. Don Juan said that, the great shaman, the teacher of Carlos Castaneda, said that it's as easy to make ourselves strong as it is to make ourselves miserable. The amount of work is the same. So being that it feels so much better to be positive and happy, why not cultivate those qualities instead of cultivating negative qualities, that make us feel bad? Why would we want to feel bad? Why would we want to blame others and complain constantly? Is that a constructive way to spend our lives? Constantly criticizing, condemning, complaining, blaming, judging, criticizing? No, it makes us feel bad, and we then want to get rid of that bad feeling, so we project it onto other people by pretending that they have the problem. So we must learn to generate positivity, cultivate positivity. It's so important. Number 11, friendliness. This is a very Buddhist quality. You might not think it, but the Buddhists are big on being friendly to everyone, being friends with everyone, cultivating loving kindness towards everyone. Because it's so easy to be hostile, or if we're in a bad mood, to be unfriendly and unkind to others, and we just create a negative atmosphere around us, and nobody wants to be around a negative, hostile person. It doesn't feel good, and when people are projecting negativity onto others, people want to stay away from that person. Rather, they want to be around somebody who makes them feel at ease, who's charming, charismatic, gregarious, social, inclusive, makes them feel good, uplifts them, rather than putting them down, you see. And it's all too easy, and I do this myself, I'm guilty of this myself, in an online environment where it's so easy to bring out that shadow side of myself. And it's so easy to criticize, blame, condemn, shame others. I don't do this in real life, of course. When I'm behind my computer, it's all too easy to slip into that mode of behavior because Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they're all very toxic environments. They're kind of platforms in which we express our negativity or our hatred or dislike or anger, or a platform to vent our frustrations at the world. Nothing wrong with venting frustration, but when it's done habitually, it becomes very toxic and unhelpful, and it makes others feel bad. And why would you want to make others feel bad? So friendliness is a beautiful quality to cultivate, and that's why I've included it here. Number 10, creativity. Might seem a unusual quality or character trait to include in this list because it's not creative people are not necessarily good people. There's a lot of unpleasant artists, musicians out there, but that's not important. Most of them aren't like that. Creativity is generally associated with positivity, abundance, overflowing of ideas. And if you can translate that into art and communicate your creativity, your inner life, if you can authentically express yourself through art, through music, through poetry, through writing, through inventing something, bringing something new into the world, creating novelty. You're adding something to the world. You're bringing something new to people's lives. And creativity does require energy, but the more creative you are, the more energy is generated, the more ideas seem to flow. And that's why I like to write. That's why I'm a writer. That's why I like to paint. I don't play a musical instrument, but my time is largely taken up with writing and generating ideas. And I find it very fulfilling, very satisfying. I couldn't live without creativity. And I think that everyone has creativity in them. The Creator created us to be creative, to express our creativity, our authenticity, our soul, if you like. Number 9, caring. Empathy, selflessness, looking after others, looking out for others, being nice to people. All very simple things, but easy to forget. To be caring towards others, towards animals, plants, trees, nature, the birds, insects, all sentient beings. To generate care is a wonderful thing. One that cares about oneself. This automatically extends to all of life, doesn't it? And what you give out, you get in return. Caring is an extension of compassion, of kindness, of benevolence. To care means to hold in esteem, to value. It shows gratitude for one's friends, one's families, one's loved ones. all of life. To care shows that you're a good person. Why would you not care? Number 8, generosity, kindness. I've kind of put them one after the other. They're not quite the same thing, because you can be kind without necessarily being generous, and you can be generous without necessarily being kind, if you know what I mean. But giving of oneself and one's resources, sharing, being magnanimous is a wonderful thing, because even though you're an ordinary person, you're like a king or a queen, because you're giving of yourself, your energy, your time, something that you can't necessarily get back, and yet you're making somebody else's life better in the process. You're helping them. You're giving of yourself rather than just taking. And by giving, you receive. It's an energetic exchange. You gain love and a sense of connection with other people. So, number 7, truthfulness. Obviously, the antidote to lying. Honesty, sincerity, integrity. When word and deed are one. Being direct without necessarily being harsh. Now, sometimes I can be harsh, almost ruthless in my directness, at least in my written mode of behaviour, in the written word, in online social media. And I'm not proud of it, but to be truthful at the same time being kind in one's speech is a very artful thing, because you're doing nobody a service, least of all yourself, by lying. Lying is so common, it's almost been made into a virtue of all things, to lie and manipulate others as if it were a virtue. But it's not a virtue. It never will be a virtue. Truthfulness is what matters, because truthfulness is a sign of a good soul, a good person, not a lying, cheating, deceiving son of a bitch, for lack of a better expression. Truthfulness is one of the highest qualities of the universe itself, of God, of spirit, the Tao, the divine, the self, whatever you want to call it. It's truthful. It is truth. And if you want to know truth, you have to be truthful. And that way you're aligning yourself with the true nature of the universe, which is your true original self. Number 6, courage. Conviction, fearlessness, purpose, heart, heroism. Courage is what's sorely lacking in so many people. It's so easy to follow the sheep, not to speak your truth, to go with society, social norms, acculturation, culture. It's so difficult to have the courage of your own convictions in this cancelling climate, where speaking your own truth will make you the target of so much vitriol and hate and anger. It's difficult to be courageous. But we must be courageous, because Courage is a vehicle of truth. If we're fearful, if we just go along with the flow with the sheep, we'll never be a true, authentic individual. It's important to fight against this tendency to people please and go along with the crowd just because that's the easy way. But we pay a heavy price by doing that, So without courage, there would be no heroes. And what a sad world that would be. 5, love. Difficult to explain, but everybody knows what it is when they say, I love you. What does it mean? Doesn't matter. You know what it means. Love, as they say, makes the world go round. Where would we be without love? Love is the very essence of the universe itself, of God. What would the world be like without love? A place full of hatred, anger, negativity. It would be a terrible place to live in if there was no love. Love for life, for the spirit, for the world itself. Love is something that is intrinsic to life, to human nature. And it is our true nature. It is the ultimate power, you see. It just lies obscured, mired in ego. Because we're so controlled and dominated by ego, we don't necessarily feel what's in our hearts. And so we never tell people how we really feel about them. And that's a tragedy. So the warrior, the cultivator, seeks to avoid this because it would be a sad thing to leave this world without telling our loved ones our true feelings about them, even our enemies. Number 4, compassion. Compassion is a love that's extended not merely towards other people or animals or plants, but the whole of life, the whole of the universe, all sentient beings. It's a higher form of love. It is love, but it's love extended beyond the self. I think Osho said that sex is the seed, love is the flower, and compassion the fragrance. And I thought that was a beautiful expression. Compassion is the fragrance of love, the perfume. Compassion is one of the highest virtues of this universe. I'm not talking about the sham compassion of those climate change protesters, and I don't mean to sound like I'm being critical towards these people, but sometimes, that we become a crusader for all kinds of causes because we think that we're expressing compassion, whereas it's a kind of sham compassion because it doesn't really come from within. It doesn't really come from the heart. We feel that we need to do it to be seen as a certain kind of person. So it's not real compassion. That's why I call it sham compassion. I'm not the only one that calls it sham compassion because people feel that it's not really authentic, doesn't really come from within. See? So it's important that compassion is an outpouring from within, from the heart. And they say that the Buddha was the perfect example of compassion, because compassion is associated with enlightenment. One who is enlightened is an exemplar of compassion. Well, is an exemplar of all these positive qualities, but compassion being one of the most obvious or manifest quality of an enlightened consciousness. Number 3, forbearance. Now, forbearance could be called tolerance, but it's actually more profound than that. It's not simply a tolerant person. Forbearance is rather the ability to endure hardship, the ability to endure suffering. One could say that the universe itself, the being that is the universe, the totality of consciousness, of all phenomena, is able to endure everything. One could say that God, or the Spirit, is the ultimate endurer, for lack of a better word, because it is able to forbear, endure everything, all that is happening, all that is manifest in the universe. It is able to endure and to transform it into something that is pure gold, to cultivate the diamond soul, to forge a diamond out of crude material or matter, is forbearance. Number 2, wisdom. One of the rarest qualities in human beings. Wisdom. What does it mean to be wise? The rarest virtue in men or women. The ability to see things as they are, directly, without any noise, without any interference. Not merely intelligence, but to be able to access the intelligence of the universe itself and see things not as we think they are, but as they actually are. What is actually so? That's wisdom. Why is it so rare? Because we think we know things. What our mind tells us, our viewpoints, our opinions, what we read in books, what we see on television, what we hear from other people. But wisdom doesn't come from other people. It never comes from other people. It always comes from the universe itself, not merely from within, because in reality there is no within or without. It only is what it is. You see? So when we get beyond the duality of inside and outside, within or without, there is only what is. And if we are able to access that infinite intelligence, that is wisdom. See? Wisdom. There's not really a lot that I can say about it because it's so difficult to define. Some say that it's 100% hindsight, but it's not really 100% hindsight, because many people get to the end of their lives and seem to have no wisdom. They keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again, God bless them. But one who can learn from their mistakes, transform themselves into this diamond, cultivate themselves beyond negativity, access that infinite intelligence. There is wisdom. It's always in the present moment, here and now. Where else could it be? You don't need to think about it. You don't need to read about it. It's here. Always here. And number one, impeccability. What do we mean by impeccability? Well, impeccability is not a single thing, but an amalgamation or a combination of all the qualities I've just described. But if I was to define it, it could be called flawlessness, or sinlessness, or stainlessness. Don Juan called it the right use of energy, or the proper use of energy. One could say it's a proper use of power, or even the proper use of wisdom. Impeccability is energy itself. It is all these qualities, and knowing how to bring them in, when to bring them in. It's the rarest quality of all. Only an impeccable spirit can know the true nature of reality, the true nature of self. Cultivating these qualities forges an impeccable spirit. And that is the true purpose of life. Cultivating all these qualities, these 15 qualities. There are others, of course, but these 15 alone, cultivating those, are going to turn you into a force of positivity to be reckoned with. And if you've got anything to say about this video, please come in with your comments and add more, and we'll discuss those as well, because I feel I'm onto a roll here. So I'll leave it there, and thanks for listening. If you liked it, well, hit like and subscribe. And I'll see you later.